Syria's permanent representative to the UN says that since its occupation of Syrian Golan in 1967, Israel has displaced around 500,000 of its inhabitants and confiscated their lands. And Syrian Arab Army units continue to pursue terrorists, inflicting heavy losses upon them. The U.S. National Center for Combating Terrorism admits the increase of terrorists who travel to Syria to fight along armed groups. Good afternoon, this is News in English. Syria's permanent representative to the UN in Geneva, Dr. Al-Hamwi, said that since its occupation of the Syrian Golan in 1967, Israel has displaced around 500,000 of the native population and has been systematically violating the rights of the ones who remained, in addition to confiscating the lands of displaced citizens and giving them to Israeli settlers, imposing the Israeli identity on Syrian citizens of Golan and punishing those who defy it with life imprisonment. Speaking in a statement at the United Nations Economic and Social Council meeting being held in Geneva, Al-Hamwi said that there are still Syrian captives which have been detained for more than 28 years in Israeli prisons in inhumane circumstances. Syria's representative added that since 2 years ago, some countries have diverting a number of UN organizations from their noble goals and purposes, pushing them to ignore human rights violations in occupied areas, particularly in Palestine and the Syrian Golan, all while these organizations race in unprecedented manner to take biased decisions against Syria in implementation of the instructions of certain countries that are complicit in shedding Syrian blood. He concluded by calling upon the international community to pressure Israel to adhere to its international obligations, stressing that Israel's violations must not be overlooked. Earlier, the UN Economic and Social Council adopted a new resolution by a majority of 43 votes to 2 on the socio-economic repercussions of the Israeli occupation on the living conditions of the Israeli people, of the Palestinian people, and the Arab population in Golan. Secretary General of Hezbollah party in Lebanon, Hassan Nasrallah, said that the Lebanese resistance is strong and deep-rooted in the public will and is massively supported and loved, therefore it is unbreakable. In a televised speech, Nasrallah said that those who seek to break the resistance will fail because it embodies popular will combined with faith. He asserted that protecting the Lebanese people is one of the primary goals of the resistance, stressing that Israeli threats are the biggest challenge facing Lebanon. Nasrallah noted that the United States cannot provide guarantees to Lebanon against Israeli threats because the U.S. is prepared to give up anything and anyone for the sake of Israel, adding that the U.S. can no longer impose whatever it wants on the world. He affirmed that the presence of the resistance in Lebanon seeks to confront the country's enemies. Therefore, it is natural for the enemies to target the resistance because it foils their plots and walls. In local news, Patriarch John X, Yazigi of Antioch and the whole East, for the Greek Orthodox Church, said that Syria is the land of coexistence, tolerance and amity, and that the Syrians are one family. During a religious mass at the Church of Our Lady in Balmana, in village in Tartus countryside, Patriarch Yazigi prayed for peace and security in Syria, affirming that Syria will remain always unbowed and will always be the land of amity and coexistence. Patriarch Yazigi expressed confidence that the Syrians will work hand in hand for enhancing national unity and bringing back joy and smiles to all Syrian people. In field developments, Syrian army units destroyed this morning 2 weapons warehouses used by Jabhat al-Nusra, al-Nusra Front terrorists in Latakia's northern countryside, killing a number of non-Syrian terrorists, including Jordanian, Libyan and Somali. A military source said that missiles and heavy machine guns were also destroyed inside the terrorist groups' dens in the villages of Al-Qastal and Saqiyat al-Kard, killing all the terrorists inside them, including 2 Jordanians, Libyan, Iraqi and Yemeni nationality holders. In Aleppo and its countryside, army units continue to pursue armed terrorist groups. An army unit foiled a terrorist attempt to infiltrate from Hanano cemetery to a Safa area in Karm al-Jabal to attack an army position. Army units killed numbers of terrorists in Aleppo city and its countryside, destroying their constructions and a den they were using for rigging vehicles with explosives in the farm of Tal Rifat town in Aleppo northern countryside. A terrorist group's attempt to infiltrate from the direction of the electricity company to Al-Sheikh Said area in Aleppo city was thwarted, leaving most of the terrorists killed and injured. Units of the Syrian armed forces carried out a series of qualitative operations against the armed terrorist groups in Hasaka city, inflicting heavy losses upon them. An official source said that the operations resulted in killing and injuring a number of terrorists and destroying their weapons in the area of As-Siha, Twaini, Al-Khama'il, Qana, Al-Karmi and As-Sa'd al-Janubi area in Hasaka countryside. The National American Center for Fighting Terrorism admitted that increase in terrorist numbers coming from Europe and the United States heading to Syria to fight with the armed terrorist groups there. The Iranian Press TV website reported the center's director Matthew Wilson at Aspen Security Forum in the American state of Colorado as saying that Syria became a field for the jihadists from all over the world, adding that some of the Europeans and in rare cases some American fighters are heading to fight in Syria with the armed terrorist groups. Wilson warned that the danger is now coming from these terrorists who travel to Syria as they will be more extremists and well trained. Then they will be back as part of a worldly jihad movement to Europe and probably to the United States. With this we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this news bulletin again, you can visit our website in English, www.syriaonline.sy. More news about finance and economy in our economic news after the break with Nariman Qasam.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Prime Minister Dr. Wael Halaqi has underlined the importance of interaction between the governors and the citizens, the necessity to exert more efforts to secure their basic and daily needs, and the advancement of all service sectors. Meeting Governor of Al-Quneitra Province, Ma'an Salah al-Din Ali, and Governor of Homs, Talal al-Barazi, each privately, Dr. Al-Halaqi stressed the necessity to tackle all the negative aspects in the various administrative, service and developmental sectors, to pay utmost care to the agricultural sector and to domesticate the industries fit for the nature of production in both provinces. He gave instructions to set up programs for reconstruction and developing the human and administrative cadre. Dr. Al-Halaqi further stressed the necessity of securing the daily needs of citizens and opening windows for selling foods, stuff and the necessary goods in the various fields for the governmental institutions with subsidized prices and to firmly monitor the prices. He reiterated that the government will go on with the policy of subsidization, curbing the surging prices and securing all basic services, adding that it will not permit anyone or anybody in and out to manipulate the value of the Syrian pound and the food of the Syrians. He concluded by saying that there are strategic stores of different foodstuff and oil products available for people. Governor of Damascus countryside, Engineer Hussein Makhlouf, has given directives to speed up with the discussion of the urban charts and to overcome obstacles after taking into consideration objections of the citizens in a manner that would preserve the public interest. Chairing the regional committee, Makhlouf called for securing the necessary services within the charts. Moreover, the committee has discussed the urban chart of Kafarkuk town, concluded the discussion of the other two urban charts of Sahnaya and Madaya towns, and took all needed measures, referring the chart to the competent bodies to conclude the measures to be put under implementation. The Investment Commission has included in the first half of this year 12 investment projects in various economic sectors like industry and agriculture, with a total investment volume estimated at 12 billion Syrian pounds, creating more than 5,000 job opportunities. The industrial sector has comprised the biggest number of those projects, amounting to 9, with a percentage of 75% of the total value of the projects till mid-year. Damascus has had the lion's share regarding number of projects, amounting to 4, followed by Damascus countryside and Quneitra, 2 for each, while Suwaida, Latakia, Homs and Tartus provinces has had 1 project for each. Minister of Agriculture, Engineer Ahmed Al-Qadri, has stressed the importance of improving the economic situation of rural women and providing support through an overall package of services to the families in the targeted villages in some provinces. The minister hailed the role played by the rural women in the development of the homeland, pointing out that loans would be granted to them to carry out projects that would earn women money, along with a course for rehabilitation and training on the best ways to develop the local community, in addition to other courses to carry out micro and other projects. A Romanian plane arrived yesterday evening in Damascus airport with foodstuff, medication and other basic needs, presented by the Romanian people and government to the most harmed among the Syrians due to the current events. Romania's ambassador to Syria and head of the Administration Department of Organizations at the Foreign and Expatriates Ministry welcomed the plane at the airport. The IMF has declared in a document it prepared to put under discussion by finance ministers of the G20 and governors of banks meeting in Moscow that the current chaos in the world's finance markets might go on and even get worse, adding that volume of development might be less than expected due to the long recession within the Eurozone and the increasing risks that the downturn in the raising markets might take a much longer time. It concluded the document by saying that abandoning the low interest rate and the non-traditional fiscal policies adopted by the advanced economies might pose challenges for the raising economies. The Professional Society for Jewelry and Manufacturing Jewelry and Precious Stone has set the price of the 21-carat gold at 7,000 Syrian pounds for each gram in the local market and 6,000 Syrian pounds for each gram of gold of 18 carats. And now over to the exchange rates according to the bulletin of the Central Bank of Syria. Ladies and gentlemen, this was our economic news for today. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.